The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, dedicated to creating access to financial well-being for local people, businesses, and communities. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar in Hatfield, specializing in solar installations, battery storage, and clean energy solutions tailored to the homes and businesses of Western Massachusetts. Northeast-solar.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Glee Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, it's all about hats and how they connect to the long history of Amherst.
With a new exhibit that explores the town through its millinery. And we'll check out some of the 9 locations with curator and connecting artists for the many displays, Anika Lopes.
And we'll meet one of her hat connections who'll be making a stop at Amherst Cinema this Monday to talk about the work she did on the movie Clueless, costume designer Mona May.
But first, some momentum was gathered this Tuesday, which has our congressman of the 2nd District up and at 'em, ready to fight the good fight.
Time for our weekly conversation with U.S. Congressman from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts, the ranking member of the Rules Committee, Jim McGovern, in a segment we call McGoverning with McGovern. So this has been a big week politically for the Democratic Party, and we'll get to that in a second, but it is now officially the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. But with these big wins on Tuesday, Chuck Schumer, who's the Senate Minority Leader, is saying that it is a repudiation of the Trump agenda. It was a good night for Democrats and our fight to lower cost, improve healthcare, and reach a better future for American families. There are, it seems, a small group of Democrats who are still negotiating with the Republicans, and I do believe that there is a big Democratic caucus lunch tomorrow that some are viewing as a turning point. Do you think with the wins this week in places like Virginia and New Jersey and Pennsylvania and with Mamdani in New York City that the Democrats, including you, will hold the line on this shutdown, pressure the GOP more, or come to a compromise?
Look, this whole issue has been about health care and about affordability. People have seen their health care premiums double, triple, in some parts of the country quadruple because the ACA tax credits have not been extended. That was the ask. You know, you control everything, Republicans, the White House, the Senate, and the House. You want our vote on something? We need to get something for the people we represent, and that is to help them afford their health insurance. That was the ask. That's the big deal. And so we'll see what happens. The president spoke to Republicans yesterday, and he said, oh, no, screw everybody, repeal the filibuster, do the nuclear option, just shove it down their throats. Well, I guess they could do that. And that's what they wanted to do. That's unfortunate because the American people will lose out. But what we're trying to do here is to prevent millions of people from losing their health care. Look, I wish we were in control of everything. The agenda would be very different. But at a minimum, we have to make sure people can afford their health insurance and that people just don't give up and decide that they're going to go without health insurance. Healthcare ought to be a right in this country. And when this is over, quite frankly, we ought to pivot to talking about what a mess of a system we have in this country when it comes to healthcare. I'm for a Medicare for all approach. I have been. I continue to say that. That we need to fix this system. It is rigged. It is too much focused on money. The insurance companies, are not interested in your care. They're interested in making money. We need to have a more thoughtful discussion about changing everything. But right now we have an immediate problem where millions and millions of people, have just received notice that their health insurance bills are going to double and triple, and we got to do something about it.
That being said, while the Republican Party have wanted to bill this shutdown as the Democratic shutdown, it seems like that is not how the American public is viewing it. And there were some big wins for Democrats on Tuesday. What has the mood been in the Democratic caucus after the wins this week?
I think people are hopeful that the vast majority of citizens in this country, are seeing through Donald Trump. The issue really is affordability. America is too damn expensive. You go into a grocery store, food costs have gone up, energy costs have gone up, rents have gone up, and now health insurance is skyrocketing. This is all happening while Donald Trump is, building a lavish new ballroom, tearing down the East Wing and building this Marie Antoinette ballroom, while he's remodeling the Lincoln bathroom, while we've just given a big tax cut to multimillionaires and billionaires. And meanwhile, regular people are just getting screwed over. And I think people have had it. And I think the message you saw in New York with Mamdani and the message you saw in New Jersey with Mikey Sherrill and in Virginia with Abigail Spanberger, all focused in on this issue of affordability. How do we make life better for the majority of people in this country, not just those at the top, but everybody. I tell people, I don't think most people look at these elections when they vote as left versus right, or Republican versus Democrat. It's kind of like, who's on my side? It's becoming bottom versus top. And I think Democrats, have been focused in like a laser beam on issues of affordability. Republicans, again, have been defending the ballroom and all this other stuff. There's a big contrast here. And I think that came through loud and clear on Tuesday. The other thing is Latino voters, Hispanic voters came back to the Democratic Party. I mean, they're horrified by masked ICE agents going into communities and whisking away people who are valued members of the community. I think there's a backlash to all of that as well. So, look, I think it was a good night for Democrats. I mean, even in some of these red states, we won these not so high profile races that I think are telling in places like Georgia, Oklahoma, Mississippi. I feel good about it, but a year is a long way away, and we have a lot of work to do.
It's the midterm of the midterm, which is a kind of an odd off-year election. But it was interesting, especially I think in New York City with Mamdani ousting a well-known political quantity for the state and city of New York in Cuomo, and with the messaging of an outright Democratic socialist, but not with the backing of some of the establishment Democrats like Chuck Schumer, where they've now asked Mamdani if they think Schumer should have a primary opponent. Is this sort of Democratic socialist messaging of a Mamdani the new direction that the politics of the Democratic Party should go in? It's not like Mamdani won in a landslide in New York City, and they do have ranked choice voting there. But do you anticipate that some of the messaging of the Mamdanis and the AOCs and the Bernie Sanders, and frankly, you, will become part of the strategy of Democrats to win in the next election next year?
Well, I hope so. And again, I'll stress that the Mamdani's message was not so different from Mikey Sherrill's message and Abigail Spanberger's message. And focusing in on affordability, on the cost of living, making life a little easier for people. I mean, that was the focus. I mean, I hear some of these commentators talk about Mamdani, talking about all this wild stuff. I think he talked about issues that resonated with even former Trump voters who voted for him. And certainly he was an inspiration to young people. I mean, just the number of young people that turned out to vote was just really inspiring. But I don't think the message that he was espousing was particularly radical. I think it's what people want members of government to address. The trouble is, Andrew Cuomo was offering the same old, nothing new, slow and steady. We'll keep the ship on course, but nothing about alleviating the cost to get higher and higher on average New Yorkers. And so, I mean, he tapped into some real discontent. And I think, so did other Democrats all across the country. I mean, I heard one Republican say, oh, well, the reason why we lost is because Republicans didn't show up because they're happy with the way everything's going. I mean, that's just insane to me that somebody would analyze the election results that way. I mean, I saw a lot of interviews in Virginia and in New Jersey, as well as New York, of people who said, I voted for Donald Trump in the last election, but I'm voting for Mamdani, I'm voting for Sherrill, I'm voting for Spanberger, because they're not addressing things that matter in my life. And government is supposed to be about helping people, not screwing people over. And again, the contrast between the ballrooms and the Lincoln bathroom and these wild, lavish, Great Gatsby Halloween parties and just what everybody is dealing with each and every day. Life is getting tougher for a lot of people in this country, and we need to acknowledge that.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, one of the ways that life has been tough this week is SNAP benefits did not go out as planned or as by law they should have on November 1st this past Saturday. We are now on November 6th. There was a lawsuit that we spoke about last week on the show from the Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell and others that was successful. The president still hasn't, as far as I know, released any of the SNAP dollars, threatening only to release half of the SNAP dollars or maybe not even releasing those if the shutdown continues. What are you hearing from your constituents and the people you're working with about the impact of SNAP not going out in these last 6 days?
Well, the impact is horrific. I mean, I'm hearing from food banks, food pantries, churches, veterans organizations, that this is a real disruption, and it's a cruel disruption. It doesn't need to happen. There's a contingency fund, and he can move money around. I mean, he did that to pay the ICE agents. One would like to think that he could do that for the 40 million people on SNAP in this country. But anyway, we don't share the same values, and that's where he's coming from. But there's a federal court judgment that requires him to pay down the contingency fund. My understanding is that states are being notified last night or today how the money's going out. Still a partial payment. It's not going to be enough. And our communities are going to have to come together to try to do what we can to make sure that, people have enough to feed themselves and their families. Government should be open. People shouldn't lose their health care. People should get fed. And hopefully, when this is all over with, we ought to be having a discussion about how inadequate the SNAP benefit is. It's a little over $2.20 per person per meal on average. That's just not enough. If we want to end hunger in this country, if we want to promote better nutrition, we ought to focus more on how we do this better. But the president's slow walking this and not really caring about any of this. I don't think he understands what it's like for people to be hungry in this country. It really is quite sad. We're trying to do everything we can to persuade, to shame, to embarrass, to do whatever to get him to do more. But with the authority he has and the money he has, he should be able to pay full benefits for everybody in this country during a shutdown. He's the first president ever during a shutdown to basically deny people food, and shame on him.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, amidst the shutdown, the House of Representatives has not met in weeks and weeks and weeks. And Jeremy from Greenfield wants to know, is there a procedural method that the Democrats could use to gavel the House of Representatives back into session? I know personally, just observing you and Congress, and even on January 6th, when Speaker Nancy Pelosi was whisked away for safety, you were handed the gavel at that time. Right. So the gavel changes hands frequently in the House of Representatives. Is it possible to do an end around for Mike Johnson and get the House business back in order and do some of the things that haven't been done, like swearing in the Arizona representative? Is there any procedural method at your disposal? Jeremy wants to know.
Not really. Any procedural efforts would require that I be recognized by whoever's in the chair. And I've tried to be recognized on a number of occasions since the shutdown, and since he's not been. Because we come into pro forma session where he gavels the House in for 2 seconds and then gavels the House out. And I try to get recognized by whoever's in the chair, and they won't recognize me. They're in charge, so they control the gavel, they control the schedule, and unless I get recognized, I can't make any procedural motions. I can't do anything. And so that's been a great frustration. I wish there was a better answer to that, but that's just the way it is. I do think that when this is all over with, that we ought to have a vote, at least a sense of Congress, to disapprove, if not condemn, the behavior of Mike Johnson. He has basically abolished the House of Representatives. We're not a check on anything. We can't do any formal hearings. All the stuff we do is shadow hearings. We can't offer amendments. We can't talk about legislation. This is a disservice not only to the American people, it really is a slap in the face of the institution. Again, I hope in the midterm elections things change, because these people, they're not fit to be in the positions they're in.
Paul from Leeds says, "Hi, Jim." Very informal, talking to his congressman that way. I recently received a mailer from the Council for Retirement Security described as a program of the National Seniors Policy. It's described as a ballot on Social Security that will be delivered to you calling for the passage of H.R. 853, the Social Security Lockbox Act. Could you provide some background on this bill and how you feel about whether it is a good law or one that has some inherent problems? He adds, by the way, great speech at the No Kings rally in Hamp.
So I just want to make sure there's a number of lockbox bill. I'm not sure which one he's talking about, but do I believe that Social Security taxes that get paid should be reserved for Social Security? I do. If that's the bill he's talking about,
it's H.R. 853, sure. So I guess we could look up the exact language.
I can look it up, and we can follow up next week. But I'll double check. But look, Social Security to me needs to be protected. It's one of the most successful social programs in the history of our country. And there's some issues about solvency. It's because we've been dipping into the Social Security Trust Fund for too long. One of the things that I also favor is maybe let's figure out how we can, spread some of the responsibility for supporting Social Security, so it's not just on middle-class families. You're taxed based on the first, I may be a little bit off here, $160,000 of one's income. But if you're a billionaire, it's the first $160,000 of your income. I think we need to kind of take another look at that, and maybe have billionaires pay a little bit more so that we can have Social Security solvent forever.
U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, what's giving you hope this week?
Well, the elections gave me hope. And, we were talking about the race in New York City. The fact that so many young people showed up gave me hope. One of the things I always worry about is whether or not young people believe that you can change things through elections, because God knows we've had some crummy Congresses over the years. But the bottom line is people showed up. Young people showed up, and I hope they stay active because they're the future of this country, and we need to elect good people. I mean, elections do matter. We need people to participate and to steer the discussion and to move our country in a better direction in which regular people, everybody is important, not just those who are well off and well connected, but everybody.
Congressman Jim McGovern joins us every Thursday for McGoverning with McGovern. If you've got a question for the congressman, you can send it our way, thefab413@nepm.org. But he's also joining us for the March for the Food Bank, the 16th March for the Food Bank, Monday and Tuesday, November 24th and 25th. You can find out all the details about how to support a team, how to start a team, how to join a team, a million different ways you can participate, especially now that SNAP has still not gone out. The food bank, as we heard on yesterday's show with Andrew Morehouse, is having to do the best it can to try to fill those voids. And this is one way to support what the food bank does. That's coming up in the next couple weeks. Thanks as always, Congressman.
All the best. We'll talk next week.
And now to top ourselves with a bit of flair and a bit of history as well, as we get a whirlwind tour of the Hats exhibit in Amherst with curator and creator Anika Lopes.
Which dovetails nicely with a talk happening at Amherst Cinema about hats and film costuming with Mona May, who'll join us a little later in the show.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Real Pickles, a worker-owned cooperative in Greenfield producing organic fermented vegetables sourced from Northeast farms. More information at realpickles.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Hashi Pottery in 50 Arrow Gallery at Eastworks, Japanese-inspired ceramics and textiles where every piece is handmade in the Pioneer Valley for home, ritual, or someone dear. HashiPottery.com.
We are in Amherst on Cottage Street, right next to our good friends at the Tick Lab. So if you have a tick that you want to see if it has Lyme disease, you take it there. But if you want to learn about the history of Amherst, specifically the Black history of Amherst, come right next door to Ancestral Bridges. And we're here with our friend Anika Lopes, and we're going to talk about hats.
Yes, we are.
As a bald man, hats are important to me and are essentially my hair. But Amherst has a really interesting hat history, and you have a really interesting hat history.
Yes, I do. So what we're focusing on in Amherst is, aside from its industrial manufacturing history at being a home as the #1 straw hat manufacturing company, and really thinking about the culture and traditions that have not been uplifted in that story and who has been left out from that story.
I think that story in general, that Amherst was the #1 straw hat making place in the country, is also a thing that not a lot of people know about.
Exactly, and thinking about now we have the college and the university as the #1 employers, and at a time when that would have been through the hat factory.
Mm-hmm. Where was the hat factory?
So actually over by Dickinson and Railroad Streets, where now a bit of it remains. Yes, the bit of it remains, which is the Amherst College DPW. You see a bit of the remnants that are there. Ancestral
Bridges is a museum, essentially. It's kind of like a family history, but history museum of the Black family of Amherst, really.
Yes.
Black families.
Mm-hmm. So here we uplift both the Black and the Afro-Indigenous families of Amherst through archives, which have really been left out of most spaces.
Part of the really interesting story of maintaining the legacy and what you get to show at this place is where this was before you got space. This all used to live in your basement.
Yes. My basement, and before that lived in the attics and basements of Snell Street and Hazel Avenue, kept for generations. This is actually a tree that dates back to the 1400s, really because of the work that had come from generations before me. I've just been lucky enough to inherit this and gain that responsibility to share it.
Show us some of the hats.
Okay. We're going to start over here, and we're talking about Mr. Henry Jackson. Mr. Henry Jackson does represent the epitome of Black business in Amherst. Henry was born in 1818. He was also an abolitionist, but he had a livery service before there were banks in Amherst, before there was a railroad, so he was actually bringing in palm leaves, which were used to make the straw hats. So in addition to the straw hat factory, Henry provided a resource for lower income families to make additional income from themselves and also adorn themselves. So we have this hat here as a tribute, this straw hat. It's a classic fedora.
But in addition to this story, you yourself are a hat maker.
I surely am. You know, as growing up here, I knew about ancestor Henry Jackson, but I did not know his influence on millinery and the hat business. So it was really nice to connect those dots. This is where we honor the ancestors here and the residents of Amherst who served in the 54th Regiment and the 5th Cavalry during the Civil War. These are the folks who marched to Juneteenth. We have behind you a letter that was written by Charles Thompson, who was in the 5th Cavalry and wrote this letter in Texas and wrote it home to his sister Mary.
Not to be confused with the other Charles Thompson who lives in Amherst, who's Black Frank Black from the band Pixies.
Or Charles Thompson in Franklin County, who is a black chair maker.
But I was listening to the other Charles Thompson, the Pixies, man, as I was a teenager here, for sure. So here's our tribute to the 54th Regiment and the 5th Cavalry. As we know, they had secondhand wares at best with both their uniforms and their weaponry. So here is just a fresh tribute to them. We'd like to think if they had something of their choice.
You have made 3 hats in tribute. These aren't actual archival or hats from that era, but they are in the style of that era.
They are. These are actually on old cloche blocks. And so they're all handmade. There's no machine use, so they are made in the way they would have been made at this time.
Is the hat that you're wearing right now a hat that you made too?
Yes, it is.
It totally rules.
Thank you. And here's our main ongoing exhibit that we have in here, which is a tribute to both Henry Jackson and Mr. Horace Weeks. Mr. Horace Weeks was my mentor, who I met in New York City, actually in the millinery section of the Garment District of New York City. These are a sample of the hat blocks that came from that space. Mr. Horace represents the first black man to own a hat factory in the millinery section of the Garment District. And you can see in some of these blocks that you'll see language from all different parts of the world. So we like to think about these millinery as a universal connector, and that you'll find no culture in the world that's not connected by millinery, be it a bone feather style function, as you will find with also food and music, these type of universal connections.
So these are actual just wooden blocks of all sorts of different shapes.
Yes.
And then what do? You stretch fabric over them and to shape them using the blocks?
Yes, very much like pottery and clay, which was actually my first love. Everything is stretched down. It's really all about getting that shape and sculpture that you have before you embellish.
You've made hats for famous people.
Yes.
Dish.
Okay.
Spill the tea, Annika Lopes.
We've got, one of my first was Usher over here. And then we have some other examples. We've got Natasha Diggs, a huge icon, style icon. Douglas Miles of Apache Skateboards. This is his son here. We've got Gossip Girl, mini film.
Which one of these forms is the hardest to work around?
Oh, probably actually the duck. I like to call the duck.
Oh my goodness.
It looks like a wooden duck.
Yes.
With Annika Lopes, who grew up in Amherst and then left.
Yes.
But did you have any idea about the hat history of Amherst, and is that why you got into hats, or is it just coincidental that you then went to go work with like the upper echelon of hat makers in the world and then came back to a town that was the #1 place for making straw hats?
Pure coincidence. I did not know that we were actually connected with Henry's story in this way.
Have you gotten to work with Palm for hats too, or have you not reached back that far into your history?
So I do. I work with a lot of straws, different Panamas, and different, more of like a finer mix now. That actual palm is really suited for like when you have pressed, more like functional styles.
So this hat exhibit expands all over the town of Amherst, not just here at Ancestral Bridges on Cottage Street. It's going all over the place, right?
Yes, it is. We actually span from Amherst College, the Mead Art Museum. We've got the Frost Library, Julie Nolan. We've got Amherst Cinema, Drake, Protocol, and Toy Box. And here we also have Hope Church.
We're talking about the Ancestral Bridges Hats exhibit, a celebration of history and culture through the art of millinery, which isn't an easy word to say, in Amherst. And it's running now through the beginning of 2026. Are we going to one of the other locations?
We're going there all waiting for us.
Which one, do we know? Or
Up next, we take this tour on the road to see some of the locations that are housing hats throughout Amherst, including the Mead Art Museum, the Emily Dickinson Museum, the Frost Library, and Amherst Cinema.
where you can also see Mona May, the costumer for Clueless, talk about her craft before a 30th anniversary showing of that movie this Monday, November 10th. We'll speak with her too.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Okay, now it's time for our Ancestral Bridges carpool, which is not a usual service of the Ancestral Bridges Museum in Amherst. But Anika Lopes is going to drive us to a
Oh, I can't drive you. I'm a city person. I have to come with one of you.
All right, then I'll drive. You just tell me where we're going, and we'll go see.
I'm definitely going to be the oldest person in the driving class. I start in a month.
Oh, you are?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
congratulations.
Thank you.
You get to ride in the Chevy Bolt. I'll shut off my Stephen King book that I'm listening to at 2 times speed.
I don't understand how you do this.
Think of how many books I can read that way.
At the foot of the stairs, and you know, retreat up the tunnel was blocked. The Gertie was behind it.
Sorry, Stephen King.
How does any of that make any sense?
So the Emily Dickinson is actually a treat. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Apple TV show Dickinson. This exhibit actually merges a tribute to Emily in a different way that is surrounded by hats from the Apple TV show.
Oh, cool. There's my first apartment when I moved to the Valley, 351 Main Street.
Oh, wow.
This is also the longest light in the whole valley in my mind. Oh my God.
Then you're not allowed to turn on red.
Pulling into the Dickinson homestead. Is Emily home? All right, we are now in the new visitor center of the Emily Dickinson Museum, which even the last time we were here was not open. And there's a bunch of students coming into the gift shop. Yeah. Where are you students from? Deerfield Academy. Oh, nice.
These are awesome.
We have this right in the middle. This is the Emily tribute, which is really just kind of playing with both top hats and boaters. So this is kind of thinking about Emily behind the curtain and Emily in color.
First of all, it's the kind of purple that is like my favorite kind of purple and my wife would love. And it's got a beautiful pen with a purple feather.
It's got a bouquet on it. It's super cool.
Did you make all these too?
I made the purple. The rest are from the show.
Megan Ramsey.
What's your role?
I'm the collections manager for the museum, so I take care of all the historic stuff. And then here in this collection here, these are all props and costume pieces from the Apple TV Plus series Dickinson that we're displaying along with Anika's hat. It's the first time that we've showed them publicly, and it's really exciting to be able to share them alongside Anika's beautiful art.
Were they donated after the series was completed?
Yeah. So the creator, Elena Smith, made this big donation of costumes, props, set pieces. So we have hundreds of pieces. So this is really exciting for us to share a little bit more.
Okay, back in the car for stop number 3. We're going to the Amherst College Mead Art Museum. Cut this guy off.
Take that right.
Oh, the guy that I cut off is coming back to cut me off. Son of a... I think she said to go on the grass.
Yeah.
Creative parking opportunities. Welcome to our whirlwind tour. What's your name?
I'm Emily, Potter and Jai.
Take us to the hats.
Let's go.
The Mead Art Museum is cool here at Amherst College because it has a decapitated steeple out in front.
This is where the hat lives, but it's in this exhibition called Representing Activity Gallery, which is a build-on to a project that you all covered last year, actually, with Melissa Giraud from Embrace Race.
Yeah.
So we took all the artworks from the collection that our community partners spoke about and then put them together in this space with really hands-on art making. And Anika's hat really pulled together some of these themes about adornment and how and where our sense of style comes from on a personal level, but also a kind of social and political and historical way.
We're playing with the Amherst Hat Factory. This is a reclamation. So this is actually one of the first hats that stems from the space. And it's actually a collaboration with Mona May, and it's Clued In, kind of a nod to Clueless turning 30. But this is really thinking about Tignon laws, which required enslaved women in Louisiana to cover their heads with dirty rags to mark them as a member of slave class, and just thinking about where that turned into beautiful head wraps and a lot of the styles that we see today. We want to just honor them, and it focuses on the difference between fashion and style, one being accessible.
I love the strawberry.
Beautiful red hat. Oh yeah, and there's a little strawberry adornment on it.
Anika also contributed to our hands-on art making activity, making these little felt hats that people can place onto paper dolls but made out of fabric. So this has been a really popular activity space for
Yeah, it looks like a lot of people have made them.
Yeah.
Oh, I am absolutely coming back to do this. This is too fun.
You want to see the frost?
Well, the frost is right here, right?
It's right
right
here.
here.
Yeah, while you're parked.
All right, well, we're already here. We're already illegally parked. Okay, now we gotta be very quiet because we're going into the library. Tell us about these hats.
So these are these beanies that the first-year students had to wear, actually from up into the 50s. And so this hat here is a redesign of that. And so we're just talking about freedom of style, of expression. And when we have here our ancestor, who was Dr. Liu, who he was a student here. He was a veterinarian, but he was also who many of our ancestors would go to be with. There were many instances of people who, the way that they were treated with medical care, felt comfort in his services, even though he was a veterinarian. This is a little book which talks about a lot of rules and regulations. Structures like you can only wear this after the 23rd of February. Different things where Mike Kelly, the head archivist here, really went all out and connected the dots in ways that really blew my mind.
It's interesting that they made the first years wear like a specific hat that is not the most flattering necessarily of hats, and now that when you drive around the campus here, it's like you lead the charge against hazing. I saw on these lawn signs, so it's how far we've come. Okay, let's whirlwind to one more place, Amherst Cinema. So we're driving around all these places. Now we're gonna squeeze you in the car too now.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
That's so fun.
Can you walk back from Amherst Cinema? It's only, yeah. Clown car now. We got 5 people in the Chevy Bolt. Okay, more slightly suspect driving maneuvers and parking maneuvers. Our last stop, Amherst Cinema. Save the Drake for Willie, for humanity.
And I actually have in one of my grandfather's pictures is a fresh picture of the day that graffiti went up.
Whoa.
Yes.
Do we know who made that graffiti?
I don't know who did the graffiti. I remember riding up with him the morning that it was there. And I was really little. I don't remember who did it, but I know that Willie is in the picture. Willie is standing there in front of it the day it happened.
Because Willie was black too, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's part of the black history of Amherst.
He sure is.
Here we go, Amherst Cinema. Oh, it smells so good.
Hi.
Hi. We're with Yasmin Chin Eisenhower, the director of Amherst Cinema. Tell us about these hats.
I mean, the person to tell us about these hats is Anika.
This is about partnership. This is a tribute to the movie Clueless. We're playing on plaid and all, but I really think that we're going to pass it back over to Ms. Director here to talk about its relationship and this partnership with this independent art house.
Well, thank you for bringing your carpool over. You know, one of the reasons why we're so excited to be part of this program is because of the fact that not only is it in support of Anika's work, Ancestral Bridges, but also just the way that this unifying idea of hats is moving through many different spaces. So we're excited that the connection between this project and the cinema is bringing in the film Clueless and the costume designer Mona May. We are super excited. We run a series here called Cinema Seminars. We like to teach the craft of aspect dimension of filmmaking, and so this idea of hats and this idea of costumes is very exciting. I hear that in the film itself there's something like 63 costume changes.
There's a lot. Like every new scene you see them in, they are in entirely new clothes, let alone the scene where like Cher is trying to look for something to wear to this one particular dance and you just see her throwing clothes and hats everywhere.
I know. Control closet.
Yeah.
So we're really delighted to be a part of this program, to be a key part of kind of a big night for the town to come and celebrate. We're also almost sold out. So if folks want tickets, they're going very, very fast.
If I can add real quick with Mona May, we're so happy to have her here. Not only is she a supporter, but as you asked earlier about placement of my work in films, Mona May is really a person who opened a lot of doors for me, and she's really been someone who has opened a lot of doors, smashed a lot of windows for people who would otherwise face a lot of obstacles within the film industry. So we're really grateful to have an opportunity to now support her and uplift her work.
And we're going to talk to Mona May.
You have a hat at every place that we've gone to. How long did it take you to make these hats?
Oh, wow. So these hats take a long time. I mean, they're weeks on end to do them. So this is really, even though we've launched now, this was a project that has been going on since 2024. These are all folks who we've been partnering with basically since my mother and I came back to Amherst and Ancestral Bridges started. So it's really a reflection of relationship.
Well, thank you for taking us on this whirlwind tour of the hats of Amherst. Back to the Hatmobile. A quick note, there's also a scavenger hunt that's associated with the exhibit as well. Each of the displays has a QR code, so you can check out one of the ones that we visited or one of the 4 that we didn't at the Toy Box, the Drake, Protocol, or Julie Nolan Jewelry, or Hope Community Church, and get hat hunting.
Now to talk with costumer Mona May before you can watch one of her earliest and most iconic films at Amherst Cinema on Monday, November 10th next, along with local curator and milliner Anika Lopes in connection with the exhibit Hats.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Comfort Bagel, scratch-made artisan sourdough bagels, spreads, and sandwiches for breakfast or lunch on Main Street in Westfield and at their new location in Holyoke at 92 Race Street. ComfortBagel.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering in-person and online graduate programs in public policy and data analytics. Admissions now open at umass.edu/SPP.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. This Monday, November 10th, Amherst Cinema presents Cinema Seminar, The Art of Costume Design for Film and TV, featuring Mona May, costume designer of Clueless and author of The Fashion of Clueless.
The seminar will be moderated by our friend Anika Lopes, milliner, founder of Ancestral Bridges Foundation, and the person we just went on a whirlwind carpool tour of the exhibit Hats with all over Amherst. The event will be followed by a screening of the 1995 Amy Heckerling film, Clueless.
Mona May is a visionary costume designer who redefined fashion and film with the release of Clueless. Mona has created some of the most memorable looks in modern cinema and television, shaping characters that have become icons of pop culture. Her designs can be seen in films such as Enchanted, Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion, Never Been Kissed, The House Bunny, The Wedding Singer, and many, many more.
Mona's work continues to be recognized as iconic and revolutionary by outlets including the New York Times, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and many others. Beyond the screen, Mona is a passionate mentor and creative consultant who regularly shares her expertise through keynote talks, lectures, and workshops. Her book offers a behind-the-scenes exploration of the film Clueless's costumes and legacy.
We are joined by Mona May and again by Anika Lopes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. Absolutely delighted to talk to you. And this project is so close to my heart. I just can't wait to get to Amherst.
We're all excited.
Clueless has become iconic to the point where other artists have now parodied the work that you've done. There have been commercials that have gone back to the fashions of Clueless. There has been the Iggy Azalea music video that's totally called from the fashion of Clueless. I want to know, when did you know that your work had become iconic?
Well, I think when the movie came out, it was pretty big because it was 1995 and everybody wore grunge at the time. So when, the movie basically, when it came out, the clothes, the fashions caught on fire because people are ready to just take the grunge clothes off and put some fabulous, colorful, feminine threads on. And I think in that moment we knew that we have something really cool because it was written in Vogue magazine as the fashion of the movie of the year. Every girl on the street you could see with the knee-high stockings, and cap sleeves and little A-line skirts and so much plaid. But I think not really till many years later we understood what kind of impact it had culturally, on fashion. I mean, really, it's amazing to be now talking to you 30 years later and seeing on Halloween all the costumes, yellow plaids running around and Dion's hats. It's pretty wild. Now I have the book, which is also so timely. It's finally, my dream has come true to bring this ideas and all the creative fashions to everyone that they can take it home. It's kind of, for me, a pinnacle.
When we're looking at the other films that you've done designs for, the thing that pops out to me is this really vibrant color palette. Like from Enchanted to Romeo and Michelle, there's all of these bright purples, bright pinks, bright reds. Talk about your use of color and why that bright palette appeals for the work that you do.
I love that you noticed that because it really is my signature. I love color. I think color has energy. We feel great when we see something colorful, right? I mean, when we look at flowers. And I was born in India to Polish and German parents. So the first things that I saw in my life when I opened my eyes were very colorful. And I think that had a complete imprint on my psyche and the way that I see the world. I mean, if you can see my house, it's very colorful. I dress very colorfully. I actually live in a pink house, which is kind of crazy. So that's the way that I really see the world, That's the way that I kind of paint the world.
when you're dressing actors, it's you're telling a story, who they are. And that's really important. I think the yellow suit is so iconic. I mean, it's the cover of my book because I think it's yellow and it's something that, when she wore it in the film, it was the first day of school. We wanted her to pop. She was the queen, and she's like the ray of sunshine, truly. So, it's interesting how you pick these things. And Romy and Michelle, the blue and pink dresses, I think there is never been kissed the pink dress at the end that she's wearing. It's so soft, it's so feminine. I mean, House Bunny, there's like, rainbows of colors with all those girls. I mean, even Enchanted. So it's really important in my work. I think that I want to bring more happiness to the world, with the bright colors and the designs that I do. And I mean, that's also something that we connected with Annika. I think like the colors, our love of color. I mean, the hats that we're doing are really, really bright and happy. And I think they're going to bring so much joy to people. I love that what Annika really is doing, because hats are a celebration, of history and culture through the art of millinery. Maybe not everybody's wearing a hat, but they get it. They've seen it, through history. Hats are my signature too, so I wear them almost every day.
I want to wear hats.
Maybe me and Annika, we have to kind of take care of that.
It takes so much space, this hair.
Khalees has dreads that make it a little bit harder to get over her head. And we're speaking with Mona May, who is the costume designer behind a lot of great movies, including Clueless, and has an iconic style that you would recognize immediately that is chronicled in the new book, The Fashion of Clueless. And we got to see some of the hats that Annika created that were inspired by Clueless that you can see at Amherst Cinema when there is this cinema seminar on Monday, The Art of Costume Design for Film and TV. Annika, tell us how you got to know Mona May originally.
Oh, so we actually met in Atlanta. Well, Mona was filming one of the American Reunion movies, right?
Yes.
And we were introduced by a mutual friend, and we've just been going ever since. I knew that we were like the forever friends. I think we had gone to like the end of the movie. There was a wrap party for it, and we were standing in line or the bathroom, and someone was like going in front of me, and Mona let them know I'm from LA and what part of their body she'd kick if they cut my way. And so we've been really going ever since. I'm so inspired by Mona. I'm so grateful for Mona. As we said, she's a mentor, and Mona is really somebody who opens doors and windows for women and all really people in the film industry. And Mona very generously has placed my work in film, but not just that, like it just introduced me to people as well. Flash forward years later, we have dreamed up doing collections together and always talking about it. And at this time of Clueless, we talked about finally doing this. And it so happened like the hat project is going on and already embedded Mona in it. So, I mean, this is just really so exciting to bring Mona to the area, not only to talk about all her creativity and just the icon that she is, but really give, especially like our youth and all kinds of folks, opportunity to speak directly with Mona. We like to say that this is the beginning of the master class tour. Western Mass is so lucky. Western Mass, where we also have Ruth Carter, who hails from.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing this hat in the back with you that was you were wearing for the Vogue World event where we have, where you were also there.
Oh my God.
With Ruth Carter. So I can't even tell you, this is like a dream for me, as a kid in Amherst, I felt like I had that angst, that teenage angst, because these things weren't here, right? So just to think that one of my besties is coming here to such an icon and being able to share this and welcome her to Western Mass, this is just so exciting.
Thank you, Annika. I'm just so happy to be coming and seeing you and really connecting with the students and the people in town, and just really being able to share my love, of costume and my craft, and of course the hat. I mean, I can't wait to see the clued in hat myself.
Oh, you haven't even seen it yet, so that's great. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it, Mona
It's
May.
wicked cool.
And we're
Yeah.
speaking with Mona May, the costumer behind the film Clueless. There will be a cinema seminar at Amherst Cinema on Monday, The Art of Costume Design for Film and TV. It'll be a conversation that will be hosted by Annika Lopes and featuring Mona May with the film Clueless to follow.
Mona, for you, what appealed about using Annika's work in your work on film?
I think it's just her talent for just wild and fun things. This is kind of how I see the world. And look at her hat.
The hat she's wearing right now, very
We
exciting.
all want that hat.
Yeah.
So, and it's kindred spirit too. It's someone that you really connect creatively, but then you really are kind of, it's a heart connection. I mean, we've known each other for so many years. We haven't seen each other many times, but we always connect. We speak to each other, we support each other. This is kind of what it's all about.
In which of your films, Mona May, can we see Annika's hats?
Definitely, I think House Bunny. There was something in House Bunny. I will have to check my.
Yeah, but
It's a lot of
We have one of the American pies. I forget.
I think it was Mena Suvari was wearing your hat on the beach in the scene. That was pretty fabulous. Yeah.
We are living close by to another person that you famously costumed, and I had been reading about your work, Mona May, and how challenging it was to design something for Susan Sarandon in Enchanted that would transition easily from the animation and the two-dimensional into the three-dimensional. Can you talk about the challenges of making that happen on screen?
Oh, that was an amazing experience because I really got to work in 3 mediums. So it was a 2D animation, like the old school Disney animation drawn by the animators, and so classic. It was so beautiful too. I got to go to like Disney vaults and look at all drawings of the artists from like the 40s and 50s. It was just so beautiful, so inspiring, but also learn a lot. How does the animated character proportion now is going to live on a human, because now we had to create that on Amy Adams, that big dress. When you think of princesses, a tiny little waist and giant sleeves, and she's looking like a little doll running around, New York City, Times Square. So it was really kind of expressed in a very large way on a human. And same with Susan Sarandon. What was cool with her character, that not only she was 2D animation, live action, walking on the 42nd Street in New York in her costume, but she also became a CGI dragon. And that was a very cool transition. So it was a 2D animation, live action, and then CGI. And it all had transition, incredibly smooth transition. So it's the same character, about the textures, working very closely with now the CGI design, but all the details, like for example, her crown turned into the horns, the cape turns into the wings. So as you're designing something like that, it's so cool. You really are foreseeing what is the next step. Susan was so gracious too, so beautiful, and we were preparing the costume. You have to create muslin first, which is like linen material, in a way cotton material, to show how it's going to fit. And she stood in that muslin costume like she was the queen already. It was amazing because those costumes, they cost like $100,000 to make, and she was selling it to the producers and to the studio. I just love Susan Sarandon. She's such a also a super person and woman who supports other women. That's really beautiful as well. I think that story was also such a great story, I think, in Enchanted, that the princess saves the prince. We need more of those stories, I think, for the girls out there.
Is there anything that's changed significantly about your style over these past 30 years? Doing this for that long a period of time involves a lot of change and evolution in yourself and your style too. So are there things that you think have really significantly changed about the way that you costume now as opposed to when you were doing Clueless?
Well, of course, technology has changed, and how we make movies has changed, because I was in the old studio system before, so that we were making movies and films. Now we are working more for Netflix, so it's a kind of a different way of creating things. They call it content now. Also now with the AI, things are changing to how we approach things and research. But I think that in kind of a long term, when you're really looking at it, my process is the same. I really look at the script, I read the story, I talk to the director. We try to figure out how can we show these characters in a very authentic way so people can connect with them or emulate them. I do research. I then, shop for the clothes, or I rent the clothes from a costume house, or I make the clothes like in Enchanted, and I go into the fitting. And really in the fitting, this is where everything happens. This is kind of the laboratory, the magic, when actors are trying the clothes on and we're figuring out who that character is, because they bring their own essence, they bring their own shape of their body, and how they move. So really, this is when the magic really happens in that moment. When we tried the yellow suit on Alicia Silverstone, we tried other suits and they just were like cute, but nothing. And when she put that yellow one on, it was just literally the room just lit up, and she lit up herself, so that gave her kind of this strength and understanding the character, how she should be in that first scene, opening scene of the movie, the bright star, the sunshine. It's just telling stories through the clothes, through the costumes. Like we are telling stories here with the hats. I think this is so beautiful. It's historical. It's like a special project, I think, that really reflect the stories across Amherst, but I think beyond it, right? Because it goes to the, Black and Indigenous people. I mean, it's like telling the stories. It's all about telling the stories. I think this is what's the most beautiful thing. Who were these people who wore these hats, and where are we now? And that's what always excites me, telling the stories.
Well, the hats exhibit is all through Amherst through the beginning of 2026, as we just learned earlier in the show with Annika Lopes. And you can see the Clueless-inspired hats at Amherst Cinema right now, or go on Monday to Cinema Seminar, the Art of Costume Design for Film and TV, where Annika Lopes will be in conversation with Mona May, both of whom have joined us today. And then a screening of Clueless to follow.
Which holds up. It's still a really good movie.
Elise just rewatched it in anticipation of this interview.
I watched that movie a lot in high school.
I watched it a lot in high school, too.
A lot.
Yeah.
In high school.
As if.
Could recite it for a while.
Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, you guys. And hopefully we get to play when I'm in Amherst. Really.
Absolutely.
You can tell me what size I need to get hats for so that I can actually join you guys.
Yeah.
You will have the tape measures in hand.
The great, awesome Jill Sobule. A show we talked about on Tuesday, The Horse of Janine, that should have been performed tonight at UMass tonight, has been canceled. Here's what the performers team had to say about the cancellation.
On Tuesday, Palestinian actor, playwright, and stand-up comedian Alaa Shahada arrived the United States from his residence in Amsterdam to begin the North American tour of his award-winning solo performance. Mr. Shahada holds a valid 1B artist visa.
Upon arrival at JFK International Airport in New York on Tuesday, Mr. Shahada was detained for more than 24 hours, denied entry to the United States, and subsequently placed on a return flight to Amsterdam. We'll talk more about this on tomorrow's show.
We'll also meet with a person putting on a performance called One Family in Gaza.
And go to the Center School in Greenfield.
Plus Tip Top Wine Shop. We'll see you tomorrow on the show.
Peace out.